This is Evangelist George McTire of the Word of God Ministry, and I want to show you what I consider one of the main problems that the black community is facing, and that is blind leadership. And it is not so much that they are blind, but I believe a lot of them have been paid off by the left to keep their mouths shut and to go along with the program. Some may have even been threatened. The reason I say this will be very clear when you see this clip of a video that is on YouTube. What you will see is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan at a conference in 2010 addressing some of these leaders on the reason that Barack Obama was selected, his words, not mine, to run for president in 2008. It had more to do with what the Democratic Party wanted to do to get out of him what they wanted than the fact of their being a friend to the black community. In short, they used him much the same way as they use any dumb Negro to do things that will benefit them, the Democratic Party. Now, what I want to say to you is this. I want to give you a list of the people that were at this conference, and I'll give you some more information at the end of this video so you can check it out for yourself. At this conference were Tavis Smiley, Michael Eric Dyson, Cornel West, Jesse Jackson, Angela Glover Blackwell, naturally Minister Louis Farrakhan, Michael Fauntleroy, Dr. Julianne Malveaux, Dorothy Wright Tillman, Professor Ron Waters, Tom Burrell, and there was a student there by the name of Raven Curley. She's a student at some college. But anyway, these are the people, especially Jesse Jackson and Michael Eric Dyson, being present at this conference. And what you will see is that after he made this statement, none of them refuted anything that he was saying, which means to me, he must have been telling the truth. Watch it for yourselves and tell me what you think.
Run things.
Yeah.
I'll close with this. Our brother was selected before he was elected. Wait a minute. Now, all of you know something about kingmakers. When people in back rooms come to somebody who's popular, somebody who's intelligent, that don't speak with a Negro dialect.
Oh, Lord.
A light-skinned Negro.
Well,
that is non-threatening to white people because they can see themselves in him because he's part them and part us.
right.
This is political scheming which Senator Reid got involved in, he didn't mean no harm. He was just talking about the white mentality.
Right. That's right.
So now, when you select a man, the man may never know what your purpose was. Because I understand that his initial victory in Iowa was financed largely by Goldman Sachs. I don't know the truth. That's what I've read. Now look, who selected a junior senator that hadn't even got his foot wet in the Senate and made him believe that he, from that position, could become President of the United States? I suggest to you
Lord.
that the people that looked at him and saw his brilliance saw that that brilliance could be used for a purpose that was not our agenda. Now, I'm closing now. The people that chose him know the time that we are living at the end of America's rule as a great power in the world. Now you have to face it. She's bankrupt. What are you going to do when the dollar is worth nothing? They are printing money out of thin air to back these programs. So my brother may be disappointing some that thought he would be what maybe he has the nerve not to be. So I say to all of you in this room and all who are watching by television, we need to pray for our brother and his family and warn America, leave that brother alone.
Well, there you have it. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan saying what I have been saying for actually since Barack Obama first won the White House. I knew there had to be some reason why the Democratic Party, the party of racism, would essentially go against everything that is part of their foundation, which is segregation, racism, and everything. You want to talk about racism? What party is the most racist? Well, you got a taste of it with what Louis Farrakhan said. If you will notice, he said that Barack Obama was selected before he was elected. Now, he was selected for what? I'm going to tell you what he was selected for. He was selected for the purpose of getting the black community to go along with something that the Democratic Party had been trying to do since Bill Clinton had gotten in office and wasn't allowed to do because the black community wouldn't go along with it, and that is to reform this nation's healthcare system. If you will remember, when Bill Clinton first got elected to office in 98, or was it, let's see, 93, 92, 93, when he got elected back then. Yeah, I'm losing track of my dates and things, but when Bill Clinton first got in office, do you remember one of the first things that he set up trying to do? Set up trying to reform healthcare. And who did he put in charge of doing that? His wife, Hillary Rodham Clinton. And what they were trying to do is, because if you look at the money that goes through the healthcare system, that is primarily, I believe, or at the time, I believe, was the second biggest behind Social Security, the second biggest industry that had billions, hundreds of billions, or even trillions of dollars flowing through it every year, and the Democrats couldn't get their hands on it or do anything with it because of the way things were set up with the insurance companies and all that other stuff. Democrats have been trying to get hold of that because they knew if they got hold of that, they could basically take control of nearly 2/3 or so of this nation's economy. They had already gotten hold of Social Security. They did that by uh, getting people to go along with uh, combining what used to be the Social Security Trust Fund and combining it in with the general fund. See, before Bill Clinton got in office, Social Security had its own lockbox or so forth where no politician, Democrat or Republicans, could touch it because it was a separate account that was under the control of the Social Security administration system. Well, Bill Clinton got in office, and with the Congress that he had, they set up uh, certain amendments and laws and so forth, which essentially dissolved the account that the Social Security was untouchable, because you had a lot of people that had built up Social Security while they were working and they died and never took advantage of that money. So that money was just sitting in the Social Security accounts, but nobody could get their hands on it unless the person who died, their family might have been able to get a hold of it. But in a lot of instances, even the family members weren't able to use it all because they either died or they had their own Social Security when they got old enough to retire and so forth. So that money was sitting there, and it amounted to several $trillions. And the Democrats were trying to figure out some way to get a hold of that money, and they just couldn't do it until they got Bill Clinton in office. And between him and the Congress, the liberals in the Congress and the Senate, they started passing laws and doing things that essentially got to the point where that money was freed up to be used for other purposes now that the so-called recipients had died and that money was just sitting there. So it got put into the Social Security Trust Fund. Now, I mean, into the general fund. Now, a lot of people talk about the fact how that Bill Clinton, when he left office, he had such a big surplus that he was the first president to leave office, and he was a Democrat. He left office and left us with a surplus, sort of like what Ronald Reagan did in the 80s, except for the fact Ronald Reagan did it simply because of the fact his economic policies left us in a surplus. Bill Clinton and his policies were digging us into an abyss, spending billions of dollars more than they were taking in taxes. So when it came time for him to leave office, what he did was put all of this Social Security money into the general fund, and what the result was, the general fund now had an excess. It had, money that was there where Bill Clinton was leaving office, and hopefully that was going to help Al Gore to get in right behind him and probably try to pursue the health care thing again. But see, the main reason Bill Clinton couldn't get the health care thing done was because the black community was standing in the way. The black community did not trust Bill Clinton because they knew Bill Clinton. And they knew how Bill Clinton was. In fact, we got comedians today. I was listening to one comedian said that when Bill Clinton got in office, the way he was supposedly messing with all these women and so forth like that, this was a black comedian called him a player. Talked about, yeah, we got a player in the White House. In fact, Bill Clinton has been known as the first black U.S. president. Naturally now, since Barack Obama's in the office, he's the first genuine black president. But they were calling him, Bill Clinton, the first black president. And the thing is this, see, the black community knew about all this, and they didn't want nobody like that getting a hold of the health care system, because there ain't no telling what he was going to do. Because, like I say, he was not trustworthy enough. They knew about his backroom deals when he was governor and so forth. So the black community was standing in the way of that. Well, since Al Gore didn't get elected, the Democratic Party had to go back and try to figure out a new plan to try to get hold of this healthcare system, because the money was steadily piling up in it. And they knew with all of the pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies and things, if they could get hold of that money and get hold, control of the system, that they could really get it out for all that it's worth. So what happened? Well, since George Bush got elected, and then they turned around and he got reelected, the Democratic Party said, well, we got to find some way to get hold of this system so that we can get our hands on that money and everything else that's coming through. We can control the nation if we can just get a hold of that system. Well, when it came time for George Bush's second term to end, Democrats went back on the prowl again. And naturally, Hillary Clinton came up for, to try to run. And the Democratic Party looked at it and they said, no, wait a minute. We want to get, maybe she could do it, but then they got to thinking. They said, well, wait a minute, she's a Clinton. Now, if she gets she gets elected, then Bill is going to be in the White House. And we don't think black folks are going to go along with this, which means we're going to be striking out again. We got to get somebody in office that's going to get the blacks to go along with what we're trying to do. Hence, here comes this junior senator, as Minister Farrakhan said, ain't even got his feet wet in being in the Senate, and they approached him and said, hey, you know what? We think that you could be president. Why don't you run for president? And anybody with any half a lick of sense when we hear how that people want to say that Donald Trump was not qualified to run for president, neither was Barack Obama, because he was still a neighborhood organizer that just happened to be popular enough to get elected into the Senate. And here, the Democrats, he hadn't even been in there 2 years good, still ain't got his feet wet, as Minister Farrakhan said, and they gonna approach him to run for president. For what? Well, Minister Farrakhan said, and let me play that section of it for you again so you can get it.
So now, when you select a man, the man may never know what your purpose was. Because I understand that his initial victory in Iowa was financed largely by Goldman Sachs. I don't know the truth. That's what I've read. Now look, who selected a junior senator that hadn't even got his foot wet in the Senate and made him believe that he, from that position, could become president of the United States? I suggest to you that the people that looked at him and saw his brilliance, saw that that brilliance could be used for a purpose that was not our agenda. Now, I'm closing now.
So as you can see, Minister Farrakhan is laying out the whole scheme that the Democratic Party was using to, they didn't care about Barack Obama. They could overlook some of their hostilities toward the black community because they had a bigger goal to try to get, and they realized the only way they were going to get to that goal is they had to have somebody that could get the black community on board with what they were trying to do, because their previous attempts failed. So they got this Barack Obama, and like Louis Farrakhan said, Barack Obama may not have known exactly what their agenda was, but they realized that black folks would go through all types of hoops just to be able to say that we finally got our first legitimate black president, and therefore the Democratic Party told Hillary Clinton, you're going to have to step aside on this one. We have to get this done because our goal is to do this, that, and other. So Hillary Clinton acted like she was going to put up a little bit of a fight, just to make it look good. Hillary Clinton going against Barack Obama. But the fix was in. She was just putting on the show to make it seem like, that she was going to run him down and talk about he wasn't qualified for this, he wasn't qualified for that. Well, everybody know he wasn't qualified. Mr. Farrakhan just said, ain't even got his feet wet, but they going to put him up to run for president. Now, ultimately, and that's what happened. So when you talk about the fact that we had our first black president, we only had it because the Democrats wanted to hoodwink and bamboozle us again like they always have been doing to get us to support what they were trying to do. And we all know the result of that. Well, Barack Obama talking about the fact that if you like your health care, you can keep it and things like that. And people say, oh, yeah, well, that's right, that's good. Black folks jumped on board, got behind it. As soon as everything got fixed up and hooked up, and the thing, they finally got everything done and got the healthcare thing set up the way they wanted it. What happened? All of a sudden, all these people start losing their health care, and everybody was talking about the fact, but he said if we liked our health care, we could keep it. Yeah, he was telling you a half truth. What it was is, if you like your health care, you could keep your health care if you can afford to keep it. That was the hook that a lot of black folks didn't realize was down the pipe, because this was a black man telling other black folks, yeah, you can keep your health care. And now, after we got in office, once again, we've been hoodwinked and bamboozled by the Democratic Party. And then we gonna talk, and then y'all gonna talk about Trump being a racist, and yet and still the Democratic Party is pulling this mess, using a black man to help them enact legislation that's going to continue to keep black folks right where the Democratic Party wants them, is right under their feet. And then now you got this thing about the this systemic racism and stuff and carrying on. See, the Democrats know they can't win uh, in the position of on the economy and so forth and things like that, because Donald Trump has already proven that the only reason why the economy is as bad as it is because the Democrats keep on doing things to destroy the economy, to keep everybody in a position where they're going to have to be dependent on government assistance like welfare and stuff. Donald Trump did in 3 years what the Democratic Party hasn't done for the nation, or for the black community for that matter, in its entire existence. So they can't win on that. So the only thing they doing is they jumping right back on this one thing that's always worked for them, and that's racism. And they trying to call Donald Trump a racist because he's doing this and he's doing that. Yeah, he might be doing some things that, if you really want to make a stretch at it, you could probably claim that he's a racist. But if you look at the comparison between what the Democratic Party has been doing and what Donald Trump is doing, Donald Trump can't hold a candle to what the Democratic Party is doing when it comes down to being racist. In fact, I mentioned shortly after he took office, well, about a year in, I said, if Donald Trump is a racist, then he's about the dumbest racist that I've ever seen in my life, because everything he's doing is helping the black community get off of welfare, get off of the Democratic Party plantation, giving them good jobs and things where they can get off of the welfare system, get to a place where they can start to achieve the American dream. That's the poorest racist I've ever seen in my life, for somebody to do something like that. They ought to put a dunce cap on Donald Trump for trying to pass as a racist, if that's what he's doing. But no, the dunce cap needs to be put on these black leaders that, like I said from the offset, they sat up there and listened to Farrakhan say all of this stuff, and not one of them refuted or came out and told the black community, that this is what the Democrats are really doing. They know what the Democratic Party is doing. Farrakhan told them what the Democratic Party is doing, but you ain't heard a peep out of any of them, have you? I said, and I'm gonna say it on this video here, insanity is when you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. Now, what's the insanity part that I'm talking about here? Listening to the same thing, listening to these black leaders like Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, Michael Eric Dyson. Like I said, Jesse and Michael Eric Dyson and Julianne Malveaux and Cornel West and the rest of that bunch that I named, all of these people at this conference listening to Louis Farrakhan saying that, and nobody said a peep about it after they left the conference. Nobody. Now, I mean, if you being played for a fool and a sucker by the Democratic Party, then anything that they say or do after that, if you know that they're playing you for fools, just like they played Barack Obama for a fool, yeah, Barack Obama got some kudos out of it. He's a multi-millionaire now, got his book deals and this, that, and other, and he's coming along doing the same old overseer stuff, trying to keep the black community on the Democratic Party plantation by talking about Donald Trump is destroying the government and he's doing this and he's doing that and the other. All of this stuff is more lies coming from Democrats, but because it's a black man that's heading up the cheering squad for the Democratic Party, that once again black folks are being made fools of and suckers of. Barack Obama's being made a fool of. Who wants to be a supporter of a party that was behind the assassinations of Abraham Lincoln, JFK, RFK, Martin Luther King Jr., and Malcolm X? They were behind the assassinations of all of them. For what reason? Because each and every one of them were embracing policies and other things that the Democratic Party did not want to see the black community achieve in this nation. And that is the American dream. So everybody that came up, the black community held in high esteem and listened to and were going to back up and support, they got assassinated. Democratic Party was behind that. You can see what happened with JFK. JFK put in place an economic program and way of thinking that Ronald Reagan used when he got in office, that essentially turned the economy around and had black folks coming out of poverty and things and getting put in the middle class. That all started with JFK. And what did remember now, JFK was the one that made the statement, ask not what your country can do for you, but rather ask what you can do for your country. JFK didn't want to see people going around depending on the government. That goes totally against what the Democratic Party wanted. So what did they do? They assassinated him. Lyndon Baines Johnson, his vice president, came in office and turned all of that stuff around and created the Great Society, split up the family and all that other stuff in the black community. And yet still you Negro, and not when I'm saying you Negroes, I'm talking about this way. You Negroes that are so dyed in the wool supporters of the Democratic Party, you the ones that I'm talking to. You Negroes are just as dumb can be for going along with this mess. Now y'all out here talking about systemic racism. Yeah, the racism is out there, and I'll address that on another video. But right now, and it's not what you think, but right now, people out here, black folks out here marching, destroying, tearing down everything under the sun because of supposed systemic racism on the part of the Republican Party, while the Democrats are the masters of it. Think about that when you go to the polls and vote. Who you gonna vote for and why? I'm out of here. Oh, I almost forgot. Uh, if you go on YouTube or if you're looking at this video and it has a YouTube page, you will find that at the bottom under this video where it says details, shows about details or something like that, there will be a link that will take you to the entirety of the conference that produced, that I'm talking about, that Minister Farrakhan made this statement in. The conference was taken, was at University of Chicago, I believe, in sometime in 2010, about March or somewhere around through there. And it was addressing the black agenda. And what it is, there are 12 individuals at the table. Each of these individuals started out with a 9-minute or 8 to 9 minute or so, addressing what is supposed to be the so-called post-racial America now that Obama was in office. And anyway, each of them had 9 minutes to put their or address their points. And then after they did that, then they came back with some closing remarks. Now, 12 people at 9 minutes, so this is quite a long conference. The link that I'm going to put down will basically start it from the introduction to the conference, and then you'll see the different people get on there and speak, and then after they get through, then there's going to be some final statements by each one, and it's during those final statements that Minister Farrakhan laid out what I was just talking about. You'll notice that because he started out, and I'll close with this. Well, see, that's when he, went on and made this statement. But the thing that I just want you to know is the link to that is down below this video. And along with that, I'm going to put a link to another video that I had produced some time back where I addressed the issue of Barack Obama being a Manchurian candidate. Now, those of you that don't know about that movie, there was a movie that was produced back in the 60s, I believe it was, starring Frank Sinatra, and then there was a later version that's more recent that starred Denzel Washington. The movie is about some high up people, mostly I guess what you might call today the Illuminati or some people like that, high up in society that has set about a plan to put a president in office that they had mentally control over by using mind chemicals and things like that to program the person to be under their control, and to put him in a position where all of America was going to, gravitate toward him. And, the plan was to get him in office, and then these people were going to control him by the way, by him having been programmed and so forth. And it's quite interesting that Barack Obama comes up in the time that he did. And basically, what I was saying about the Democratic Party is essentially almost along that same line. That's why I addressed him as being the Manchurian candidate. So I'll put a link to that video as well. But anyway, I hope you got the message as to why I say you people, you Negroes out there that's supporting the Democratic Party, that you die-hard supporters, want you to know exactly what you're getting into. And if this nation goes down, then once again, it's going to be because of black folks. I mean, yeah, you know, there's some whites out there that die hard Democrats, but like I said before, if it wasn't for the black community, Democrats wouldn't be able to do anything, because every time we have elections for president and stuff, all you hear a lot of these people on CBS, MSNBC and stuff be talking about is, if the black vote gets out, then they'll put them over the top. If the black vote gets out and does this and another, put them over the top. Everybody knows that the black community is the ones that hold the key to what happens to this nation. So if this nation is going to hell in a handbasket, then you know why the black community is catching all this hell, because everybody knows it's the black community that's the cause of it. It's not systemic racism. It's the fact of white folks and the rest of us, blacks and whoever else that don't go along with this mess, seem so antagonistic or hating the black community. It's because the black community is the cause of all this daggone foolishness. Got it? Good. I'm gone.